Greetings everyone, my name is John Sifiso Mazibuko. Today I'm just here, I want us to share a topic, a very important and a very interesting topic, parental involvement. What is parental involvement? I mean, this is a very interesting topic for almost all of us because one way or another we are parents, either by biologically or being caregivers. At the end of the day, we become parents and we are expected to be involved into our children's education or children's life, their development as a whole. And this is a very interesting topic because it speaks to how our children end up becoming and how our children grow to become, I'm recording this, it's a festive season. Majority of us are sitting at home. Some of us are still going to work because of our jobs are not the same. But we are sitting with the results that some of us are happy, some of us are questioning, some of us were saying a lot of things about those results that our kids received for the end of the year. And the truth about those results is that they reflect our involvement into our kids' life, and not just education alone, but their life as a whole. Because parental involvement doesn't just include you going to school, to attend meetings, going to school, to receive that report whenever you are called. You go to school, you buy textbooks, you are there for the kid, to buy uniform. That's not parental involvement. Those could be some of the things that are part of parental involvement, but doing those things does not necessarily mean that you are done with parental involvement. It goes a long way, and it goes into understanding a lot of things when it comes to this. And before I go further, I just want to make a disclaimer to say whatever that I will be talking about does not represent my employer, does not represent the institution that I work for or any of my managers, but it's just an opinion that is based on my experience being a teacher for more than a decade, and also having been in management, and also being someone who studies, so reading articles, being involved in academia as well, and yeah, being open-minded as well, and dealing with a lot of cases. So that has opened my mind to say, let's speak about these things, let's speak about these issues that we experience as teachers, and we don't speak about them sometimes. We don't have a platform where we speak about these things, and parents keep doing these things. We keep ending up having these issues year after year. So I just wanted us, that we're sitting at home, it's during festive season, let's speak about parental involvement. What is this parental involvement that everyone talks about, that you go to school meetings, they talk about, the low parental involvement that they're experiencing. What is this parental involvement? What it has to do? I mean, you're paying school fees, you attend those meetings, you're making sure that the child is clean at school, you're making sure that your child has everything that they want at school, but then they still say we are not involved as parents. What is it that we're supposed to do, to say that we are involved, or to be recognized as parents who are involved into the education or the development of our kids as a whole? I think number one, we need to first look into what is a stakeholder, because as a parent, you are a stakeholder. And a stakeholder is someone who participates within the organization or within an institution. And when we speak of the education of our children, we've got a lot of stakeholders that participate in making sure that your child is educated, your child receives, a full development, holistic development. And we've got these four primary stakeholders that maybe in coming episode I'll speak about these stakeholders, their roles. What is it that they need? What is it that they need, or they are supposed to do? But today, I just want to speak on the role of a parent as a stakeholder. There are four primary stakeholders that will look into making sure that your child is taught, that your child receives education. So when you speak to teachers, these are the four primary stakeholders that they know they need to play a role to make sure that the education of your child is quality. Number one is, the Department of Education. One can say government, but from us, we say it's Department of Education, who represent the government. So is the biggest stakeholder, as they need to make sure that everything is there, the school is there, their teachers and so on. But we'll speak about their role in depth in coming episode. And stakeholder number two, the most important. So how I'm mentioning them in their importance. So meaning that education, Department of Education is number one, is the most important. The second one is the parent. The parent is the second important stakeholder. And the third important stakeholder is the teacher. And the fourth is the learner. Now, these four, if one of them is not there, you can't have education. If one of these four is not there, you can't have education. We've got stakeholders like your SAPS, South African Police Service. They are a stakeholder to us, but we can teach. Education can take place without them. But if the parent is not there, education cannot take place. If the teacher is not there, education cannot take place. If the Department of Education is not there, the education cannot take place. If the education is there, the teacher is there, the parent is there, and the learner is not there, then education cannot take place. So these are the primary stakeholders that needs to be there in order for education to take place. Now, I've mentioned their importance, and one can have a different opinion in terms of who is important, who must be there first. But on another episode, I will explain why I said these four, they are in this order for me in terms of their importance. Now, I want to speak about the role of a parent as a stakeholder, because we need to say, now these stakeholders, there are four of them. But as we speak about parental involvement, we need to understand, what is my role as a parent? What is it that I need to do as a parent to make sure that my child receives the education that they deserve, or that I'm expecting them to receive? What is it that I need to do at the end of the day to see my child growing, whether academically, in sports, or in any other aspect, cognitive or whatsoever? I want to see them growing. But now, to see them growing, you need to understand what is your role. Because remember, in South Africa, you have a situation where people blame each other. You have certain stakeholder blaming this stakeholder, and this stakeholder blaming this stakeholder, that we don't have quality education because of these stakeholders, this one and this one. And when you go down, or you sit down, you start to observe, you start to look into these stakeholders blaming each other, you see that one of the things that we lack is collaboration, which means coming together as stakeholders to work towards making sure that the quality of education is at a level that we expect it to be. And let me not just go into other things. Let me just go into what I want us to speak about, the parental involvement. Now, when we speak of parental involvement, for me, I say parental involvement, it's a cornerstone of the student's success. Your child's success depends on parental involvement. Now, children grow differently. You've got those ones who, by nature they are intelligent, by nature they can manage social pressure, all of those things. I mean, we've got kids who are, parents. Yeah, we've got kids where there are 5 children in the family, and one of the children is a parent. And that child still survives school, still at the end of the day becomes successful. But when you look at that child, then you say, if there was a parent, then this child could have been far. Because when this child, after school, this child must go back and cook. This child must go back to certain chores that a parent was supposed to do. This child must go stress about the others because this child is a parent, to the siblings. And that makes the child not to perform as the child would have if there was a parent who was taking care of all the other issues. So hence I'm saying that parental involvement is a cornerstone of the child's success. So meaning that for the child to become successful, you need to have a parent who's involved. And for me, I believe that the involvement of a parent is not limited into the parent at school, but it has to do with the academics of the child. How involved are you in the academics of the child? How involved are you into the sports activities of the child? Because one child may be gifted in academics, but when one of the things that fulfills the child is to see themselves playing, is being in sports. Once the child goes to sports and then he sees himself fulfilled, and that can even motivate the child to go back into academics and do well. But sometimes because we want to push academics, and then we find that we can't use these sports as a way of encouraging, motivating kids to do well in their academics. So whenever we support this child in academics, this child doesn't have interest there, and he doesn't see the importance of you being participant or you participating in that academics because you don't participate whenever it comes to their sports. So sports is also important. It's important that you're also there when it comes to the child participating in sports. Parental involvement does not end, or it's not only about you participating when the child is at school, communicating with the teachers and so on, but it also goes back home. How things happen at home builds up to the child's success. It builds up to how the child becomes at the end of the day at school. And you also speak about the well-being of a child, whether it's emotional, physical, mentally, and financially. As a parent, you need to be there for the child. When the child needs you emotional, you need to be there. Majority of these kids, they receive report cards now, which are the results. And some of them were not happy with the results that they received. And the best that we could do was to shout at them. We never had a talk. We never got to sit down with them and ask, what is it that you are finding to be difficult at school? What is making you not to achieve in this subject? Because we were never active. We never participated from the beginning of the year. Our only role is to come at the end of the year, demand results. But the question is, when the results come here, can I now understand why this child is performing at this level? Can I speak on behalf of my child to say my child is struggling in mathematics because of 1, 2, 3? Or it's a question of when now we are dlala, when now Tandi TV, when now you are always on social media. That's why you're not doing very well, because you spend time on TV, you spend time on social media. And I'm not saying let's not discipline our kids. Discipline is part of parental involvement. You need to discipline your child before your child can be disciplined at school. So, but before you discipline the child, do you understand where the problem is coming from? Were you part of this child going through this problem? When this child is seeing these results, the maths is shy, this maths making this child to fail, are you there to support the child emotionally? Are you there to support the child mentally? The child is trained, is studying, especially those who are doing matric in the secondary school, grade 10 to grade 12. Those children sometimes can be mentally drained because of they are attending on weekends, they are attending on school holidays. What are you doing as a parent to be there for that child? What is it that you are doing to make sure that as a parent you support that child, you make sure that that child receives the support that they need in making sure that they are stable mentally, they are able to cope? So those are questions that we need to ask when we're speaking about parental involvement. And as we speak about this parental involvement, we need to also look at them. As I said, we're looking at the role of a parent as a stakeholder. One of the important part in the education sector in the Constitution, one of the statement is section number 29, 1A. That section is very important because it says every child or everyone has a right into basic education. Now the question is, does every child goes to school? Does every child go to school? Are we making sure that the child receives education in the basic sector? Or it's just about the child figuring out that we send these kids at school so that they can be babysitted, you know? And I'm saying this because when schools are closed, our comments sometimes as parents, you know, they make us to be questionable, to say, we can't wait for schools to open because these kids here with us, they are troublemakers, meaning that we cannot be involved in our kids. We can't control our kids. So we take these kids to be controlled, the school, to be looked after, to be taken care of. But when it comes to these kids coming at home, then they become a problem to us. We can't bear with them, you know, in our homes. So this statement or this right says that every child must go to school because basic education has to do with children. So that is rule number one for all of us, and we that is constitutional. And even the Bella Act, the new act that was signed in 2024 by President Cyril Ramaphosa, says that if you do not take a child to school, you can be arrested for 12 months. You know, 6 months to 12 months, you can be arrested if you are found to have kept a child at home and that child is, you know, is not receiving education. So, meaning that that is the role of a parent. Now, role number one, we need to take these kids to school. That is our role. We need to take them to school and ensure that they receive the education that they're supposed to receive. Role number two, when you go into what we call SASA, South African, South African School Act. Yes, South African School Act, which is, we call it SASA when we abbreviate in terms of abbreviation. It says that every school has to establish what we call SGB, School Governance Body. Now, School Governance Body, SGB, is the collaboration of parents, school and support staff, educators. When I say school, educators. So parents and educators and support staff come together to form a committee that will govern the school. So each of these, in this committee, these people who are here, they are not representing anyone. There is no teacher who represents teachers in the SGP. There is no parent who represents parents there. There are no support staff who represent parent support staff. But when these people become a committee, they become a committee that governs the school. Just like when you look at it in terms of the government of South Africa, once a political party comes into government, that political party is responsible for all of us, to govern all of us. They are not there to represent their political party. That is why when you read the constitution, it says that whatever one says in the parliament or do in the parliament must do it from their conscience, not from an influence of their political party. It goes back to school as well, that when these people come there, they become a committee. Now, that SGB that I'm talking about, it's the participation of parents. Now, as a parent, you need to participate in these things because when you speak about the SGP, are the higher decision making. The SGP is the higher decision making. The decision that has to do with the running of the school, effective of the school, are taken in the SGP. So, as a parent, one of your role is to participate in the SGP. And when the SGP calls meetings, you need to be there as a parent. You need to be there as a parent. That is your role. And when you go further, creating a conducive learning environment at home. When kids come to school, the other stakeholders has to make sure that the environment is an environment where children can learn. But when the child comes back to at home, when the child comes back at home, Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Now, when a child comes back home, you need to make sure that the learning environment there, or the environment at home, allows the child to learn. So the environment shouldn't be about the child being able to do other things. The child can, entertain themselves. They can sleep well. They can do other things well. They can eat and all those things. But when it comes to learning, the environment doesn't allow the child. Your role as a parent is to make sure that at home children can learn. Whether it's making the home quiet, or making sure that there are resources, or there are spaces, or there's a space for that child to learn. You have to make sure that that environment is set up for your child to learn in that environment. Here is another part that is very interesting. That is the role of a parent. Majority of us have heard these reports that came in 2023, that there's PALs that reported in 2021 that a majority of our kids in South Africa at grade 4 cannot read for comprehension even in their home language. So you've got learners that are around 60% to 80% can read, but they cannot read for comprehension. So you've got around about 20 to 40% of kids that can read and comprehend what they are reading. But the others can read, but they cannot comprehend. They cannot understand what they are reading. And we mostly ask, what are teachers doing at school? They're not teaching. What is the education doing? I mean, in the olden days, we could read 1, 2, 3, we could do 1, 2, 3. But we never ask ourselves, what have we done to contribute into making sure that our kids can read and can count? Because one of the role of a parent is to make sure, is to encourage, create the space for a child to be able to read, and for also numeracy. Now, when we speak of numeracy, literacy, and reading, these are 3 things that, as a parent, is your role as a parent to make sure that your child can do all these things. So counting, when it comes to numbers and counting, a child must be able to count at home. You must encourage that at home. So by the time the child comes to school, we can't be questioning to say, what are teachers doing at school? So, and that is the role of a parent, to encourage reading, literacy, and numeracy at home. And the other one is communication, or to communicate with educators. Your role as a parent is to have communication with the teachers at school. You need to be able to know what is happening to your child. Your child can come home and have problems at school. You can't communicate with the teacher. Your child brings results from school, and those results, you can't even question them. You can't even talk to the teacher to find out what is wrong. Like I said in the beginning, that sometimes we become loud, we become noisy when it comes to our kids bringing the results to us. Then we say they didn't perform very well whatsoever. We never got to go to school, communicate with the teacher. What is wrong with my child? Where is he struggling? Have we ever made that time to go to school? And that is our responsibility as parents, to go there and have a communication with those teachers, communicate with them. Sometimes even our kids can be absent for 3 days, 4 days. You don't report, you don't communicate with the teachers. They don't, after the child is fine, if you are sick or whatever reason that could have, held the child at home, the child is coming back to school, and when the child is back at school, you don't say anything, you don't communicate with the teachers. But at the end of the day, when things go wrong, you blame the same teachers. So, you see, now I'm still talking about the roles of the parent. When I go to the roles of a teacher, you will hear also the wrongs that might be happening or that might be done by teachers. So now I'm still talking about the parents. So one will say, maybe I'm defending the teachers, but I'm still speaking about the role of a parent, The other one is participation in school activities. All school activities, you need to participate as a parent. Whether the school is doing fundraising, whether the school is doing sports, whether the school is doing academics, you need to participate. Majority of the time, we even make remarks that these kids, when they go back to school, they make the same remarks, and then you see, oh, these remarks were made at home. That when the activities that are happening at school, parents have this tendency of saying, bayahlanya labo teacher laba, why are they doing 1 2 3? They were doing 1 2 3. And when these kids make these comments, you can see that this is not a child's comment. This comment is coming from someone. So as a parent, you are expected to be there fully, support your child in every activity that is happening in the school. You support that activity, because there's a purpose that each activity is happening in school. You might not see the purpose, you might not know what is the aim, and even if you are confused about it, you have the right to go there and ask and say, what is happening? Why are we doing 1 2 3? And the other one is teach values, principles, and discipline. Before you can say that, schools cannot teach discipline anymore. When we grew up, we were disciplined at school. Remember, times have changed. There are rights, there are constitution, now and then these rights are amended, and majority of them have been taken away from schools, and discipline started home. Trust me, children who are being disciplined at home, when they go to school, they don't become a problem. Unless otherwise there's an influence within the school environment that will influence the child. But even though there's an influence, you can see with the discipline of the child that, okay, this one is disciplined at home. Maybe the discipline is lacking, whether at school or there's an influence that is affecting or influencing the child to become what they are. But the first place of discipline is at home. The first place of instilling values and principles is at home. It is your role as a parent to make sure that you instill those things. You put discipline in your child. You give principles into your child. The other one is encourage extra curriculum. We're growing into a time where we don't want extracurricular activities. We don't want sports. We don't want all these things that doesn't have to do with academics. And it's our role to make sure that we encourage them. It's our role to make sure that each school has them. When schools don't have them, we need to question why they're not there. We need to go there, establish them as parents, because we have a role to play in the school. Establish those things. Make sure that they are there. Trust me, I participate in sports. I've seen kids who can do very well in sports and use that to motivate them to go back to class and perform very well. It doesn't just end there. The fact that me and you can on weekend go and watch sports, that simply means that their career going to be in sports. Someone's career is going to be in debate or somewhere else. There are podcasts everywhere. To be in a podcast, to start a podcast, you need to have, presentation skills. You need to have public speaking skills. There are such extracurricular, co-curricular activities in school where there are debates and there are spelling BEE. Why are we not there to support our kids? It's our role to make sure that we encourage them. And let's make sure that your child, no matter how good they are academically, let them have something that they can do as an extracurricular activity. This will be able to distract them from their academics so that they can get motivation from other things to come back into their academics and perform very well. And another rule is to enforce proper school uniform, discipline, and regular attendance. Your role as a parent is to make sure that your child attends school regularly. Your child is dressed up in full school uniform. You can't have a child that is going to wake up in the morning, dress up in uniform, and then as the Adidas. You don't see anything wrong. You're just gonna come and say, no, but this child, when they go to school, he uses his brain, he uses his mind. The tegis doesn't have anything to do with their education. It has to do with discipline. It has to do with school rules. It has to do with the school code of conduct. Some of us, we don't even know the school code of conduct. And every parent must have a school code of conduct. Do we have them? Do we know them? Can we align our kids, our behavior, the kids' behavior towards these code of conduct? but we don't know them. So it becomes difficult. So those are roles that we have as parents when it comes to the education of our kids. We also have even other general roles, that we need to play as parents, For example, providing love, security for our kids. It's part of us. We need to do that. No one can do that for us. We need to provide that. We need to make sure that our kids are loved. We need to show love from home, and we need to provide security for our kids from home before they go outside. Before the government can provide security, I need to make sure that I provide security for my children. Helping your child during the adolescent stage, it's your role. When your child grows up, sometimes we neglect these children because we think they are growing. We think it's a stage. During that stage, they need you more than they needed you when they couldn't do anything. When this child was 0 years, how many months and so on, you thought that child needed you more. But when they are at the adolescent stage, they need you more, because that stage they can easily be influenced by others, and everything that you have taught them before that, it's erased. Their mind changes at that age. So you need to make sure that when they are at the adolescent stage, you provide the support that they need. You are there to help them navigate during that time. You also need to make sure that you engage in activities that stimulate thinking, problem solving, and enhance their intellectual growth. The activities that we plan at home, the activities that we participate on. Now it's holidays. We're going into parks. We're going into these places where there's alcohol around the kids. There are no activities where we take our kids where these activities challenges their thinking, where these activities challenges their problem solving, where these activities challenges their intellectual growth. We don't take them there. We need to create them ourselves. I know sometimes we can say, but there are no places to do these things. The only place is that we go into a park where there are swimming pools and so on. But those places are surrounded by alcohol, are surrounded by these things that we don't want our kids to do. And sometimes even ourselves, we go there, we have alcohol, we are smoking, we're doing all those things. And that kind of an influence then affects these kids. And when they grow up to do the same thing, we question why. But we never created activities that challenges their thinking, that challenges their problem solving, activities that challenges their or that enhance their intellectual growth. The other one is, like I just mentioned now, modeling appropriate behavior. Going to a park with your kids, it's not bad. But when there is alcohol, are you saying your kids, they must grow to drink alcohol? And this generation where people can drink beyond control, you can't control them, Yeah, it's a very difficult time where, even where we work, emisebenzini, you can attest to this. Where you stay, there are people who cannot control their drinking. And then that becomes a problem when I see you taking your kids into an area where there are people who are drinking and so on. We don't create spaces where we can say they're alcohol free. These are places they are going to stimulate something out of our kids that, will benefit them later on the stage. But all these things, they affect them mentally, emotionally, and physically. And the other one is facilitating social interaction and teach communication. That is part of our role. Ensuring proper nutrition, healthcare, and promote physical activity that contributes to health growth. Sometimes even when it comes to physical activities, we think that we're abusing our kids. We think that some activities, our kids cannot do them. We even, say that I cannot make my kids suffer what I've suffered. I've worked very hard for my kids to have it soft. Sometimes you need to challenge them physically. Let them do physical activities so that when they grow, holistically. it can enhance their growth physically to become strong, And the last one I want to talk about before I wrap up is the establishing routine. It's your role to establish a routine. Some of us, we even complain, Uguti, like I said, now kids receive their results. You'll be telling the child, Uguti, no, you are failing because you don't want to study. You are watching TV, you are on social media, and so on and so on. But here is the truth. Have you created an environment where this child can be able to have a routine that they can follow? Did you create a routine that this child can follow? Or it's just about you saying this child must be able to do 1, 2, 3 by themselves? And you as a parent, your role is to make sure that there's a routine that these children can follow. Your children need to follow a routine. They need, when they come back to school, there are chores that needs to be done. After the chores, there are things that your children need to do. From those things, your child needs to get into the end of the things. When it comes to the end of the day, everything is done. And you don't have a problem of this one was not done, this one was done in this way. At the end of the day, when you have results, you use that against the child. Your role is to make sure that there's a routine that is followed at home, and your child must adhere to it, must respect it. And it's your role as a parent. Now, as a parent, and then it comes back to this as I wrap up, what is this parental involvement and what is this expectation by schools? As I've mentioned, our role. Now, this is our role. We need to do 1, 2, 3 as parents. But what is this parental involvement in a concept of education, in a concept where now I need to make sure that the education of my child is effective? And I want to say parental involvement is an active, ongoing participation of a parent. So it's an active, and it continues this participation. Your participation should always be active and should be always ongoing. It cannot stop. Now that it's festive, your parental involvement, your participation in your child's development that has to do with enhancing, contributing towards their education continues. It can never stop. It doesn't stop. Even now during the holiday, school holidays, your child's education, your parental involvement continues as a parent. I know we say, no, it's time to rest, but while we are resting, what is it that we are doing? And that is making sure that during this holiday, my kids are resting. They are not touching any book. They are doing 1, 2, 3. And what they are doing, those things are going to contribute towards their development. And it's going to make sure that their cognitive level is ready for school. So that is my definition of what is parental involvement. With parental involvement, it is the active and ongoing participation of a parent or a caregiver in making sure that the child is ready, the child is growing well academically and socially and in all aspects of life. Now, there are misconceptions when it comes to this parental involvement. When we speak of parental involvement, there are misconceptions. There are people who believes, Oguchi, you know what, when it comes to this parental involvement, once the child is inside the school, the teachers must see into the child. I'm no longer responsible. The teachers must see everything that happens into the school. It's the responsibility of the school and the teachers. And that is a misconception. The other one is, some people think that I attended an event as a school and I attended a meeting. So bangfuna about teacher, why do they want me? What do they want from me? Because I attended a meeting, attended and all those things. And so that is a parental involvement. True, it's part of parental involvement, but that's not it only. The other one is, sometimes we hide behind this uneducated. We are uneducated, so we cannot help our kids, we cannot create all these, we cannot participate fully in the education of our kids. It's a misconception. You can participate, whether educated or not, you can participate into the education of your child. The other one is When children reach this stage of adolescent stage, we think that they are growing independently. I need to give them the space to grow independently. I need to give them this space so that they can be themselves. That's a misconception. You are going to send your child into the death, whatever, into the grave. You are sending them into a grave. Because during that stage, it's the most important stage, the adolescent stage. So you can't say, "Useyakhula, let me teach him how to stand alone." You stand with your child while they are learning to stand there. You can't say, "Umntwana," when the child is starting to stand, a toddler is starting to stand, and then you say that, "Go just stand on yourself." No, you need to make sure that you stand next to the child stand. From there, take one step. You are there, you are helping the child until you are sure that the child can stand. Not just say because they've reached this stage of standing, now they can stand by themselves. It's a misconception. Another misconception is the misconception on the issue of affordability. We think that because I can't afford, because of 1, 2, 3, now I cannot fully participate into the education of my child because I cannot provide certain resources. It's a misconception. You can participate fully so with or without money. So there are things that you can do that you will not need to have money for you to do them for your child, to provide an environment that is worth for your child, that is going to become effective for your child. So those are the misconceptions that I just mentioned now. Now let's speak about the real parental involvement. Number one, we need to understand education is a collaboration. The minute you understand that education is a collaboration, someone, and someone must come together to make sure that education is provided, then you understand the concept of parental involvement. But once you think that someone must do something when it's not your duty, lawyer must do, then you haven't understood the concept of parental involvement. Yes, everyone has a role to play, but we need to collaborate. Even in that role that needs to be played by the parent, the teacher must be able to collaborate in that role. The Department of Education must be able to collaborate in that role. The child needs to come and participate as well, so that this collaboration at the end of the day gives the results that we want. And number two, as a parent being involved, number one, you need to assist your child in homeworks. It's your role. You need to make sure that when your child is doing homeworks, you help them. You must never have this thing, my child is intelligent, can do homework on their own. You need to help them. This is where you're going to see where your child is struggling as a parent. Because once you allow them to do it by themselves, and at the end of the day you receive the results that you are not happy with, you can't then shout at these kids and say, Wuti, they don't do homeworks and so on. Hence I spoke about even the routine, that you create the routine. You create a routine when to do homework, when to do reading, when to do counting, and all those things must be done by you as a parent. Then we say you are involved as a parent when these things can be seen. The other one is discussion of school activities. When we speak of anything that is happening at school, you need to have discussions with your kids. You need to be discussing with your child what is happening at school. 1, 2, 3 is happening in this way. Why are you doing this thing in this way in your school? Get their understanding. Do they understand why they are doing 1, 2, 3 at school? Or they're just doing it because they are just following the rules. They're just following whatever that is done. You need to get their understanding so that whenever you look at the results, you have an understanding, a full understanding of why your kids are performing the way they are performing and why your children are growing the way they are growing. Fostering a learning-friendly environment that is supportive. You have to create an environment that is supportive, an environment that is learning-friendly. Your children needs to be able to learn in the environment they are at home. Wherever they are at home, they need to be able to learn in that. Attending all events. I've spoken about this. You as a parent, you need to attend all events, academic, sports, whatever event that the child is having, you need to attend that to be involved in as a parent. Monitoring academic progress. You need to monitor progress yomntwana. Progress yomntwana speaks to the classwork and homeworks. Is my child passing on my classwork and homework? Before we speak about the test, before we speak about the exam, before we speak about the report card, is he doing well in classwork and homeworks? Are we doing that as parent? That is parental involvement. That is us being involved in their academics. Communicating with teachers. Are you communicating with teachers? Do you go to school to ask about your child? When you see things that are starting to go wrong, do you go to school, or do you just throw remarks about the school or throw remarks about other people? As a parent, you need to go to school, have a communication with those teachers, provide support, emotional, physical, mentally, and financially. I've spoken about this before. Emotional support, you need to provide emotional support. You need to provide physical support and mental support to your children. Encourage good study habits. As a parent, it's your role. Before any motivational speaker comes and speak about the good ways of studying and so on, as a parent, you need to encourage that at home. You need to make sure that your kid seeks ways on how to, study healthy, study in a manner that will bring effective results. Instilling discipline, that is parental involvement. Motivating children. You need to be the first person that needs to motivate children or your children. It's you. Before there's a motivational speaker that is that the school is going to pay, before there's a motivational speaker at church, your children need to be motivated by you. You need to motivate them, whether by behavior, whether by doing things, whether by speaking to them every day. You need to motivate your kids. Your kids need to see you as a motivation. Involvement from January to December. Like I said, my concept of parental involvement is an active participation, ongoing from January to December. You are there for your kids. You're seeing the growth. You are interrogating the growth. You are questioning everything that is happening about your child, and you are finding ways to make sure that your child becomes the best. That is parental involvement. Help with social pressure. There's so much pressure outside there. And your child needs you to be the one who speaks to him about this pressure. And if you're not speaking to him about this, or you're not speaking to her about this, there are people who are going to speak. And let's pray and hope those people don't speak the wrong things that you don't want your child to know or to be exposed to. Spend time with your children. It's very important to spend time with your children, whether doing certain activities, whether talking, but you need to have time. You need to set a time where you say, this is my time for children. Like any other one, spend time with the family. You can have time as a whole family to say, this is a family time. We need to spend it with the children. Our children need to understand there's something called family time. There's what we call my time and their time. No one needs to tamper with this one. No one comes and distract or, come to this time. This time is for me and my children. Whether I'm taking them to a park, whether I'm taking them for playing, whatever way you're taking them, or you are watching whatever, a movie, but there must be a time where children know that this is my daddy or my mommy's time. No one but us, just us. Encourage extracurriculum. Make sure that your children have one sport, one activity that they do beside the main thing that they go to school for, which is education. There are a lot of activities that happen in school. Make sure that your child does an activity there, whether it's speech, whether it's debate, whether it's public speaking. Let your child do something at school. It helps them. Encourage reading, literacy, and numeracy at home. That is parental involvement. Teaching kids routine. It's parental involvement. Controlling entertainment and social media. That is your role. And not just a role, it's parental involvement. You are involved. When you are involved, you need to control the social media of your children. You need to control the entertainment of your children. I know it sounds otherwise when I say controlling your social media, but the time that your kids spend on social media, it can't be more than the time they spend on books or the time they spend on activities that enhance them for education purposes. The time they spend on entertainment, it can't be more than the time that they spend on books. You can't be fighting with your child to say he's spending more time on TV, spending more time on books, but you never control anything. So in a nutshell, I'm saying there must be a timetable that your child uses, and that timetable must be monitored by you, not anyone else, but by yourself, And when you create that timetable, when you create that routine, you need to provide resources. You need to make sure that your child have the resources to become who they are, who you want them to become. When your children grow into even grade 10 to grade 12, those children, they cannot depend on one textbook that they get from school. They need to have different textbooks, study guides, and all those things. You need to provide those resources as a parent. They cannot depend on one textbook and say you're expecting them to pass. There are so many textbooks, and the person who will be setting that question paper might be using a textbook that your child is not using, and that question might be asked in a way that this textbook did not reveal it or did not say it. So it's very important. Another resource that is very good is YouTube. But now you need to control YouTube, because you think your child is on YouTube, he's still learning, and he's watching other things that doesn't have to do with him growing and becoming who they're supposed to be, or the ones that you are driving them to become. That is you being involved in your child's education, in your child's life. And I know all these things that I'm mentioning, someone will be saying, but you know what, Mazibuko, we're working, we're at work, you come back very late, I can't be doing all these things. How can I do these things? Because at the end of the day, these are things that you need to do as a parent to become fully involved. But how do you do it when you have a job, you are a single parent, and you are always busy? There are always ways how to fully do things, especially in a time where there is technology. There are ways on how to get away with things and how to do things in a smarter way. Parents who are busy and single parent, I always take it to say, God didn't get it wrong when God said the family structure must be in this manner. He didn't get it wrong. He was correct about it. But I know life doesn't give us everything that we want, doesn't give us everything that we desire. We might have wanted to be a family the way we wanted to be, but we didn't end up there. Because in reality, when there's two of you on the child, it's easy to take all these things that I'm mentioning that you need to participate on, to say that when you take these ones, I take these ones. Then when I'm here, when I'm available, I go here, you go there. Then it becomes easy with the kids. But when you are alone, then it becomes difficult. Sometimes it can be two of you, but both of you are working jobs that demand you to be, working odd hours and so on. And you're struggling with this one. I think one of the most important thing then is to come back to say, can you yourself manage your time? You're working odd hours and so on. Can you manage your time? Once you're outside work or even at work, can you manage time now? Can you work properly with time? Because it starts there to say, if you can manage your time very well, all these things, you can manage them, use other references or sources to manage these things. But when you use other sources, you need to make sure that your communication is really good with the sources that you're going to use. I'm just going to explain them just now. Secondly, can you prioritize? Do you know what is important and what is not important? Number 3 is consistency. When you start something, when you commit to something, can you become consistent on it? Because if these 3 things, time management, prioritization, and consistency, is still a difficulty in you, then you won't survive it. You won't participate fully into your child's development. How your child is going to grow, you are not going to be there. So these 3 things are very important, which is your time management, prioritization, and consistency. Once you have these things sorted out, once you can do these things, number 1 is make sure that you have principles. Your children grow up under principles. They are guided by principles, values, and you also instill a routine. So once you have principle, values, and routine, you will be able to manage your kids, whether you are there or you are not there. But your kids will be able to know, our principles, we believe in this, and these are our values at home. We're taught this, and these things, we cannot break them, because when you break them, we break ourselves. And once you teach that, then you will be able to say, when it comes to routine, your kids will be proper on routine because they understand the principle. They understand why we are doing routine number 1, why we're doing routine number 2. They understand it very well, and they understand the benefits. They understand the results of not doing routine number 1, routine number 2. But when you just want to give them routines, but you don't put principles, you don't put values, you don't teach them values, it's going to become difficult for your kids to do all these things. If you're a single parent or you're a busy parent, it's going to become difficult. Even for us parents who are not, that busy, you have all the time to have it with your kids. Once you have principles, once you have routines, you are going to manage your kids. Your kids are going to become the best. Your kids are going to do everything that they are expected to do. Ngendlela yakhona. When you are done with these principles, when you are done with this routine, the next part is to have aftercare and tutor. Now, it's very important that this one, you have a good communication with it. A lot of parents go dump children in aftercare. A lot of parents go dump children in tutors. They never consult. They wait for the results. You have to have a communication with the tutor. You have to have a communication with the aftercare to say, how is my child performing? How is my child doing? And in these things that I see my child not doing well, that you are saying they're not, my child is not performing very well, what could be the problem? How can I help? You need to have those questions. You need to be able to analyze your child results to say that when the results come and say that my child has performed at level 4 in mathematics, and these are the reasons why my child has performed there, and this is what I need to do. You can't be saying my child performed here because you're watching too much of TV, you're on social media. That then reflects the principles that are at home. It reflects back to the routines that you have put at home as a parent. So tutoring and aftercare is the best way for parents that are single parent, cannot do all these things by themselves. Parents that are busy, it's a good way. But that tutoring and aftercare, you need to have a communication. You need to check on them. You need to give support into that tutoring and aftercare. Because sometimes that aftercare can be limited. It can have certain limits because of maybe it's still starting. Maybe in terms of how they do things, they don't have enough resources to support your child. Your child might need extra support. So you need to know what your child needs. You need to know. You need to communicate with the aftercare and the tutors. So basically what I'm saying is that we can participate, we can make sure that our kids grow to become who we want them to become. But it takes us participating fully. It takes us knowing our kids. The minute you know your child, the minute you know that your child is doing things that are wrong, when your child behaves in a certain way, you know that there's something wrong that is happening behind, this whole behavior. You are then involved as a parent. But the minute your child behaves in a way that you don't understand and you start blaming other things that are contributing to that child, you are not involved as a parent. But you need to be able to understand the child holistically. You need to understand the child in all areas to say that my child is this child because of you are an involved parent. And being an involved parent will benefit your child holistically, whether academically or outside academics. As a child, developing as a child alone, you need to be there for your child. You need to participate in your child, in your child's development, and this will benefit them in their academics. The children that are performing very good at school, some of them is simply because of parental involvement. Some of these kids, they come from good, families, but they can't perform at school. Why? Because the support is not there, because the parents are not involved enough. Children are gifted differently. I'm not ignorant to that. Children are gifted differently. And in their gifts, you can be able to find the root cause of their performance and find the structures, find institutions, find people who can support your child to become who they are meant to be, who they're supposed to be. So today, that's my information session with you guys. I wanted just to share that, to say that our children can become the children we admire. Those people that are outside there that we look into and say, I wish my children could be this disciplined, my children could grow to love education, could grow, and be open-minded. They can do that. but it needs us to be there. It needs our full participation, and our full participation needs us to understand our role as parents. And understanding those roles, we need to be involved fully, participate, active, have a continuous and active participation, engaging with all stakeholders, engaging with every activity that they are doing. Interrogate it, ask questions, whatever that is happening, ask questions about your child. I think this will be the end of our first session, and if you have been with me, sitting with me from the beginning until this time, thank you so much. And yeah, let's see each other on the next session. And yeah, let's go out there and make sure that we participate in our children's development, and make sure that we provide what we need to provide, and do our best in making sure that they survive this South Africa. It's bad out there. It's bad. Everything is out there. It's, influential. Is, yeah, things are just out there. But let's protect our kids. Let's make sure that we do what we're supposed to do. We are involved. Everything that I've mentioned, do what you can in the beginning. Start small, grow to become fully a full participant in your child's development, in your child's education. And yeah, stay blessed. God love you. We love you. Till next time. Thank you.